Hello, everybody, and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Philadelphia. We are in day 2, Return to Ravnica Draft. This is the first match of the second draft pod, and we are seeing Luis Scott Vargas on the left side of your screen versus Yuya Watanabe. I am Marshall Sutcliffe. I am in the booth with Steve Sadin, and they're already off to the races here. Looks like Yuya has a Grim Roustabout. He does unleash it, and Luis follows up with a Crosstown Courier. Now, he's got a Steam Vents and an Island so far. And Yuya battles in there, gets in for 2, and then plays a Dredge Beetle.
But no third land.
Critically, no third land.
No.
And it looks like he's going to take the damage. This actually might help Yuya a little bit. Now, it was 2 lands in a row, unfortunately. But also, we do see that Yuya is likely in Golgari, in which case sometimes getting those mill effects can actually help.
So Luis just played a Splatterthug, which he did not unleash.
So this way, he can both attack pretty profitably. I mean, I guess he could make Yuya regenerate or double block or something, but he can also just block really well here.
Right. He is stuck on 2 lands. Doesn't really have a way to attack through the Splatterthug unless he has a trick in his hand. Oh.
He does indeed. He has an ultimate price, and he battles with both creatures. He's going to bring Luis down to 14.
But still, no third land.
No third land drop. Luis definitely has a 4th. I see a mountain in his hand. He's going to battle with the Crosstown Courier. He's going to mill a couple more cards. It is another land, and it's another Grim Roustabout. 3 lands, Key Rune, and so he makes a Key Rune, and he plays a
That's a Blood
Crypt, I believe. Yeah, he's going to play it tapped here. He doesn't have anything he wants to pay 1 black mana for. No main deck Cremate here or Electrickery.
Yuya. Oh my god. Yuya just showed off a Golgari Charm when he meant to cast his Grizzly Salvage.
So we've seen that a couple of times today on camera. Not from Yuya. I've never seen Yuya do that before, but he did have 2 cards in his hand that cost black-green, and he just got them mixed up. But it does actually dig him all the way down to a swamp, which allows him to cast a Deviant Glee on his Grim Roustabout and battle for 6. And Luis finds himself sitting at a fairly low life total at 8, although he's still attacking.
Wow.
He's going to bring Yuya down to 14, and he's going to mill 2 more. I see a Karaz.
And another Deviant Glee.
I think, that's a Stonefair Crocodile, I believe, and a Deviant Glee. And now Luis follows up with a Void Wielder to return the Grim Roustabout to Yuya's hand. That also knocks the Deviant Glee off of it.
Now, Grim Roustabout is a card that's been seeing a lot of play this weekend.
Yeah.
I think something that a lot of people might have dismissed as marginally playable before this weekend. If you have any good ways to pump it, it can be really difficult to block.
Yeah, we've seen it on the battlefield just be a super big pain. All right, it looks like Yuya follows up with a Drag Mangler here and battles. Luis falls down to 6 here.
Now, I can't imagine that Luis is still able to attack with his Courier, but I might have said that a turn ago.
Yeah. So Luis is planning out how he wants the rest of this turn to go. He does have a Rakdos Key Rune that he can activate, so that could sit back and block the Beetle while the Void Wielder gets in the way of the Drag
He
Mangler.
attacks again.
Wow, he just activates it and bashes. Gets in there for 5. He does have a follow-up play, and it's a stab wound. This way, Luis only takes 1 damage. He could block the Beetle with his Void Wielder, and all of a sudden, Yuya is up against it, facing the tick-tock that is a stab wound. Yuya does find his 4th land here, though.
Now, suddenly, it's Yuya who might just be dead in a turn.
Mm-hmm. Luis could have sudden impact, or explosive impact, in his deck as well. After his turn, he will bring Yuya to within range of that card. Would make a lot of sense for the line that Luis has taken here.
If Yuya attacks.
Even if he doesn't.
Oh, Luis knows that Yuya has Golgari Charm in his hand.
That's right.
So
he can get rid
if
of the
he-
stab wound if he wants.
he can get rid of the stab wound and his opponent's courier, and he makes it difficult for Luis to attack with his key rune.
So it turns out that showing Luis Scott Vargas one of the cards out of your hand is going to give Luis a pretty big advantage here, especially when the Golgari key rune does kill two of the creatures that Luis has.
So Drudge Beetle, and Yuya says go.
Now we see that Yuya has left up Golgari Charm here. Left up the mana for it. Certainly don't think that he wants to fall to explosive impact range here.
Right, so even if Luis passes the turn, we'll probably, without an attack, we'll probably see Yuya cast his Golgari Charm to get rid of his own Dreg Mangler.
No, he'll just, if he does, he'll just Golgari Charm away the stab wound.
Maybe.
Right?
Not sure. No,
I mean, just kill the enchantment.
Get rid of. Yeah, I guess that's just better here.
Well, I mean, if he does the other mode, he does get rid of the Crosshound Courier as well, and it does take care of the problem that's the stab wound. But, I mean, destroying an enchantment.
No, I guess that's just better. Obvious.
Yeah, and he does do
that. But Luis has an Is It Charm.
Luis has the Is It Charm.
It.
He's going to use the must pay 2 more to counter it. And Yuya does, in fact, fall down to 5. Now, Luis has 6 mana up, though. And I think if he had the impact, we would have seen it already. So we do have a game here still.
Yuya trying to figure out if he has any good attacks this turn. He really wants to get rid of that stab wound if he can.
The stab wound all by itself is a 3-turn clock. But Luis is also sitting at 6, so if Yuya can mount some type of offensive here, he's got a ton of cards in his graveyard. See a Sewer Shambler brought to the front, and Yuya starts doing math. You know, if Luis was at 11 or 12, he could really sit back and just ride that stab wound, but he does have to be aware, at least, that Yuya can make some big creatures and attack. And remember, Luis does have that key rune back to block as well, so he's in a pretty good position. Thinking about attacking with his now 1/1 Dreg Mangler. Certainly would prefer that to be in his graveyard along with the stab wound gone.
But at the same time, that's one of the only cards that's preventing Luis from attacking him back.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he does attack.
All right, he does battle. And Luis just chump blocks with his Void Wielder on the 4/4 Beetle, and he takes the 1 damage to go to 5. Yuya plays a post-combat Grim Roustabout, and he is going, and Luis says, I will steal, activate, and swing with my entire team. And that's going to be it.
Wow.
Because he's going to take 3 at least, and that means that the stab wound's going to get him. Okay. So it looks like we're going to switch over to, we have 2 matches in the feature match area. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to our other one, and all right, so we have
Greg
Lucas
Smith on the left.
and Lucas Yakovsky is on the right-hand side, and he's battling.
Oh,
wow.
an Electrickery.
Wow, we came at just the right time, didn't we? So on one side we have a Rakdos Shred Freak with a Deviant Glee on it, and the other side we had 2 Rakdos Shred Freaks, but they both just died. And Lucas is stuck on 2 lands, it looks like. Greg, however, is on 3, and he makes a 3-4 with Unleash.
Oh,
And we
that's
see the hand extended. Wow, now that was a super quick match.
All right, I guess we get to go back to LSV Yuya.
Wow, that must have been just a real
Greg
blood
Smith
fight there.
now 13-1. Not a lock for the top 8 yet, but he's in as good of a position as anyone else in the tournament.
Man, that electrickery was brutal. 2 for 1 against an opponent who's stuck on mana.
And you have a 4-2 that just can't handle.
That was kind of sweet, actually. We just jumped over. Got to see the finish of the match.
And we're back while they're still shuffling.
And they're still shuffling. Rakdos mirror, I guess. All right, so Yuya down a game now. The first time that we saw this match on camera today, Luis, I think he also won the first game, but then Yuya came back and won both. Is that right, or did Yuya 2-0? Can't remember, but Yuya won the match, which is kind of where I was going here. And looks like Luis is looking to equalize that.
Right, Luis did win game 1. He came out much faster than
That's
Yuya.
right. Remember, he had the.
We thought that Yuya's deck might just not have.
That's right.
Anywhere near a low enough curve to compete with Luis's Rakdos deck. But then we found out that his deck was far better than it appeared in the first game.
Yeah. Now that was in the other draft. These are brand new decks that we're seeing here. But that you see that Luis Scott Vargas is 12-1. His only loss of this entire tournament is to Yuya Watanabe. So. Doesn't want to pick up 2 losses to Yuya here, and he is up a game already, and Luis is looking at his opening hand. It looks like Yuya has decided to mulligan. For those of you just joining us, we're in Philadelphia here. This is the first match of the second draft pod in day 2 here. So there's going to be 3 more matches, this one and 2 more after. They're going to make up the entirety of the Swiss rounds.
Yeah, and then we cut to the top 8.
And then we're going to cut to the top 8, and we're going to do another draft, and then it will just be 3 more matches to determine a winner here in Philadelphia in the largest Magic tournament on North American soil ever. It would be pretty sweet to win that one. I'd like to have that in my pocket.
Right.
All right. Yuya's examining his 6, it looks like, and he's got a keep. He plays a Rakdos Guildgate and shifts it back to Luis, who just leads with an island. Yuya does have a 2-drop. This time it's Grim Roustabout, and he is going to unleash it. And
Grim
Luis
Roustabout, a card
has
that's
nothing.
been really good in Golgari decks this weekend.
Absolutely. Yuya has a follow-up play. Dredge Beetle.
Splatter
and
Thug.
Splatter Thug unkicked, as we sometimes say. He did not unleash it. Is going to halt the assault here potentially for Yuya. He could still attack and represent a combat trick, but I think that Luis is probably going to call this one. I'd be surprised if Luis didn't block one of them. He does, and there is, in fact, a giant growth in Yuya's hand to take out the Splatter Thug. Also, Luis takes 2 damage in the exchange.
Right, so even though Yuya did have the trick, it's not like Luis is going to have it. It's not like he would be in a better position this turn. If Yuya had the giant growth here,
he would just be down a bunch of damage.
Exactly.
All right, so Grizzly Salvage on end step for Yuya, and he is looking at a Grim Roustabout, 3 Swamps, and a Dagger Drone Imp. Let's see what he's going to take. Looks like he's thinking about the 2 creatures there.
Now, we know that Yuya has a lot of scavenge in his deck. But in this spot, I actually think that Grim Roustabout is probably better to scavenge onto. A lot tougher to kill. It's bigger. Yeah. The lifelink probably isn't going to be a huge deal. He does take the Grim Roustabout.
Still with only the 1 black mana source. Now, I know that during the actual draft, Yuya and Luis were sitting right next to each other. Yuya bashes in with both creatures. All right. Luis blocks with his Rune Wing on the Beetle, but Yuya has another pump spell. He's got a Savage Surge, which is going to kill the Rune Wing. Luis does draw a card off that. And the Grim Roustabout that we saw from the Grizzly Salvage joins the board for Yuya as Luis untaps and then plays a Void Wielder. He's going to get rid of one of the Grim Roustabouts back to Yuya's hand. Yuya is going to battle with both creatures. He says, you take 2. Luis says, sure. And a Sluiceway Scorpion comes down for Yuya Watanabe. That is also going to be able to battle quite effectively.
So now, it's interesting to me that Yuya played the
Street Spasm for 2 completely wipes the board, and Yuya does not have regeneration mana available. That was a huge blowout. You see Yuya kind of firmly put that card into his hand. That's got a sting. It looks like there's a Sewer Shambler for him. Lucky he didn't have that one out there too.
Oh, Minotaur Aggressor.
And the Minotaur Aggressor for Luis Scott Vargas. He apparently was a little short on playables there because that isn't a great card, but it's certainly filling a nice role here, and it's bashing very hard, 6 damage.
Yeah, I wonder if that was in Luis's main deck or if he boarded it in knowing how much Scavenge is in Yuya's deck.
Huh. That's an interesting question. I mean, at the same time, Yuya also has 2 Grim Roustabouts. All right, Ultimate Price trades.
Speaking of Scavenge.
Yeah, 2 mana for the 7 mana Minotaur Aggressor. And then a Scavenge happens. Asperia's Skywatch comes down. It's going to detain the now larger Sewer Shambler. And Drag Mangler off the top is going to battle right now. It's going to attempt to get Luis down to 5, and in fact it does. Luis decides not to trade. So the Grim Roustabout that was bounced before. Or it looks like they're making sure that life totals are correct. And it looks like Yuya, yes, he has unleashed that Grim Roustabout, and he ships turn back.
We know that Yuya has a Beetle in his graveyard that he can scavenge if he draws a 6 land.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't draw land, then that means he's going to draw a spell. So either way.
This is a particularly awkward board for Luis because that is a Blood Crypt.
Yeah.
And that means that Sewer Shambler can just get in there unblocked. It's got Swamp Walk, and Blood Crypt counts as a swamp. I think he would have been much better off with a Guildgate in this position, but
yeah, normally running the Blood Crypt cycle of rare dual lands comes at little cost to players.
Yeah.
But every so often you run into a Swamp Walker.
It's true. All right, Thought Flare for Luis. Draw 4, then discard 2.
Right, so if Luis taps out on his turn, then Yuya will be able to freely scavenge another +2/+2 onto his Sewer Shambler if he draws a land.
Yeah, he doesn't have the mana, but if he does,
that's the game.
That's the game.
They'd be off to a deciding game 3.
As it sits, Luis would be at 1. Oh!
Stab Wound.
He's going to shrink that thing back down to a 2/1.
Sewer Shambler's still a 2-power unblockable creature here.
And is this a land for Yuya? Doesn't look like it.
No. Unless he has a trick. Oh, Yuya does attack with everyone. Regenerate.
So what was it, a Golgari Charm? He just attacked. So what was the attack with everyone for?
I'm surprised. Seems like that was really the only block that Luis could make.
Was it basically just a free attack for Yuya? I mean, we've seen Luis just playing Minotaur Aggressor in this deck. There's no reason why he couldn't have a Tenement Crasher or something along those lines, something with haste.
And you might want his Dreg Mangler to die so he can get some more +1/+1 counters on his Sewer Shambler.
That makes sense.
Like, he doesn't lose much by making that attack, but still a little bit odd. And Luis plays his Void Wielder, bouncing the Sewer Shambler.
Which is kind of interesting because it gets rid of the stab wound.
But Luis is at 3.
Yeah, he's going to die. So, but then again, the Sewer Shambler is going to come right back down here.
But we see the Dreg Beetle is still in Yu's graveyard. If at any point he drew that 6th land, then he would be able to just make the Sewer Shambler lethal. Yuya, again, trying to figure out if he has any attacks or if he just has to replay his Sewer Shambler. Those Void Wielders in Luis's deck seem particularly potent against Yu's deck full of Scavenge.
Especially because Scavenge is generally pretty expensive. Like, you invest a lot of resources into getting that Scavenge effect off. And, yeah, then just to have it all reversed into this huge tempo blowout. Also, interestingly, the Void Wielder seems to be able to block whatever it is that comes back down.
Oh,
after.
geez. Teleportal. That's game.
Wow.
Luis Scott Vargas takes the match.
So he overloaded Teleportal and got in with all of his guys?
Yeah. That was more than lethal.
Wow, that's